moving from surviving to thriving. Thinking small brings agility, and the AI disconnect. Pull up a chair and join us as the editors of DC Velocity discuss these stories, as well as news and supply chain trends on this week's Logistics Matters podcast. Hi, I'm Dave Maloney. I'm the Group Editorial Director at DC Velocity. Welcome. Logistics Matters is sponsored by Storage Solutions. When flexibility matters just as much as efficiency, it's time to rethink automation. With mobile ASRS from Storage Solutions, a Young Heinrich company, you get a smarter way to automate pallet movement, powered by autonomous mobile robots and guided vehicles. No fixed infrastructure, no rigid layouts, just proven, adaptable systems designed to grow with your business. From solution design to implementation, they don't just deliver automation, they deliver an end-to-end solution. Let's build a better warehouse together. Find out more at storage-solutions.com. As usual, our DC Velocity senior editors Ben Ames and Victoria Kickham will be along to provide their insights into the top stories of this week. But to begin today, we've definitely seen a lot of uncertainty this year due to changing economic policies and the supply chain shifts that have resulted. It has placed a lot of companies on the sidelines trying to figure out what to do next with their technology investments. How do they get from just being in survival mode to thriving? Our guest today joins Ben Ames with some insights. Ben?
Thanks, Dave. We talk a lot about supply chain disruptions, but this year has arguably been more disrupted than most, thanks to geopolitical conflicts, regional wars, fluctuating tariff policies. With all that uncertainty in conditions, many U.S. companies have gone into survival mode, sticking to their core operations and doing business the way they've always done it. The problem with playing it safe like that is that organizations can miss out on the chance to invest in the very technology that they need to overcome those disruptions. Here today to talk with us about that disconnect is Alex Saric. He's Chief Marketing Officer at Ivalua. Welcome, Alex.
I bet. Thanks for having me.
To start off, could you just give us a quick synopsis of what Ivalua does and its place in these supply chain operations?
Yeah, absolutely. Ivalua is a leading provider of spend management solutions with embedded AI. We have a complete unified suite of solutions that really cover the entire process, from managing suppliers, finding new ones, contracting, invoicing, paying, as well as a lot of very specific supply chain processes like new product introductions, bill of materials, quality, etc.
Got it. Thank you. So it sounds like you've really got your finger on the pulse of what makes these businesses move on an everyday sense. So let's talk about the conflict that we're describing here. You say that leaders know that innovation is essential, but short-term volatility is stalling the investments that they need to build that longer-term resilience. Did I get that right?
Absolutely. And we have done a survey a few months ago, and exactly that contradiction came out, and we see it ourselves in conversations. On the one side, 73% of supply chain leaders agreed that investment in technology more is required so they can better handle uncertainty and risk. But then the flip side, 65% were actually pausing or decreasing because of the uncertainty. And it's understandable why these things happen. The natural reaction with uncertainty, when you don't have that clear business case, you don't have tomorrow's environment, is to kind of freeze. But it's very dangerous to do that.
Yeah, that's for sure. So, innovation that we've been talking about here, that's a pretty broad term. Are there specific types of innovation or technology that could help companies that are struggling with the challenges that we've been talking about?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there are a few. I mean, I'd say at the core, supplier risk performance management type of solutions are really key. They help organizations map out their supply chain, including the sub-tier, which we find is actually where a lot of the surprises come from these days, and there's poor visibility, monitor the risk, performance. And then there are solutions that flow from that, from sourcing to actually help identify new suppliers when you need to diversify or shift your source of supply. And I definitely have to say, while it's not a type of solution or a particular solution per se, AI, which is increasingly being embedded, it's kind of supercharging these solutions and allowing leaders to do much more than they could before, like monitor the risk of 100% of their suppliers, thousands or tens of thousands, by not just looking at third-party sources, but also chatter and news and earnings announcements. So AI is really taking it to the next level, and it's also helping find new suppliers and build resilience in many other ways.
Interesting. And if I could follow up on that one, maybe. You said that Ivalua works with a broad array of clients. Is that stance that you just described as true for, say, logistics operators, as supply chain, as manufacturing? Is it something that can help all those kinds of operations, or can certain ones get more out of it than others?
No, absolutely. I mean, we work across different types of industry and specialized ones, whether it's aerospace and defense or automotive manufacturers or shipping companies. So it really addresses all of them. Of course, there are certain specialized processes and solutions for certain industries, like automotive. Bill of materials is very important, so that's mainly relevant for that industry. But it's very broadly relevant to anyone that's managing spend and supply chains.
So, do you have a feeling from talking with all those folks about what the challenges are that are holding businesses back from investing in these things?
Yeah, at its core, it's really the uncertainty itself. We're at a point where it's not the technology or even the talent that's usually the roadblock. It's just not having visibility into what the next 6 months are going to bring, and kind of hoping to wait, and senior leaders hoping to wait before they decide where they're going to make investments. But I also think there's a misperception that innovation and cost control are at odds. The reality, especially when it comes to AI, there's often not even an incremental cost. A lot of times it's really just adopting and using capabilities that are coming out in existing solutions. I mean, we don't charge anymore for AI. It's built into our solutions, and we constantly roll out more capabilities. So organizations just really need to start leveraging and realize that if they hold back, what happens is, regardless of what the situation looks like in 6 months, uncertainty is still going to be here, and they're going to be increasingly worse off at handling it relative to their competitors that are investing.
That does make sense. So to wrap things up here, it makes sense, to say that companies need to move forward anyway, but maybe easier said than done. Are there any sort of specific steps that companies can take to overcome the hurdle that we've been talking about with that uncertainty?
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, it depends a lot on the company and exactly what the situation is there. But one kind of common recommendation that I make is to start small, especially when it comes with AI. AI often, if you roll it out too broadly, people find, oh, it's hallucinating here, or the use case doesn't quite work the way we need to work. So it's important to kind of roll these out on a use case by use case basis, where you have a chance to pilot it quickly, make any refinements, and then roll it out. It doesn't take a lot of resources or a lot of investment, but they can very quickly start getting gains, especially if you prioritize cases that are focused on building resilience and efficiency, where AI has already gotten quite good. So starting small is definitely important. And the second thing is, there needs to be a cultural shift at a lot of companies with innovations. And that's an easier thing to say than to do. But you really need to build innovation into the culture and kind of eliminate fears of experimenting and leveraging these new technologies, because a lot of it doesn't take a lot of time, doesn't take much money. Sometimes it doesn't take any money. But once you get rolling, it really builds the business case for bigger and more important improvements going forward.
Gotcha. Boys, it sounds like you're talking from experience there. We really appreciate your taking some time to talk about these issues with us today.
No, no problem. Thank you for having me.
Our guest this week has been Alex Saric from Ivalua. Back to you, Dave.
Thank you, Alex and Ben. Now let's take a look at some of the other supply chain news from the week. And as companies adjust to tariffs and try to shorten their supply chains, they often look at what is available in their own backyard. And Victoria, you wrote this week how many companies are turning to small suppliers to give them the resilience that they need.
That's right, Dave. So there's a new report out on this topic from supplier intelligence platform Supplier.io. The report was released this week, and it shows that working with small businesses can help strengthen supply chains and boost local economies. So Supplier IO is on the procurement side of things. The company helps procurement teams partner with small and local suppliers in particular. So this is their area of expertise. And the company analyzed data from more than 500 large enterprises for its 2025 Small Business Impact Report. And what they wanted to do was learn more about those companies' small sourcing initiatives. Collectively, the 500 companies spent more than $122 billion with small suppliers in 2024, generating an estimated $202.7 billion in total economic output and supporting more than 828,000 jobs across the United States. So it's a pretty big impact.
Yes, it is, and it's pretty clear how the trend is generating support for local economies, but how does it straighten the supply chains?
Well, in many ways, but a key factor is that it helps with resilience and risk mitigation when companies can use local suppliers as part of nearshoring or reshoring efforts. And we hear a lot about that these days in light of the uncertainty over tariffs and the potential for global supply chain disruptions, as you mentioned at the outset. So essentially, local sourcing helps build more resilient and cost effective supply chains, according to the research. Small business spending also creates like a ripple effect on supply chains. Buying from small suppliers obviously supports those small companies, but it also allows those small suppliers to purchase goods and services from other businesses. So the support sort of cascades through the broader economy. The survey found that every dollar spent with small businesses has an impact of $1.65. So that's $1.65 in total economic output. Another note that caught my eye in this survey, so they identified, 17 large enterprises as small business champions, and that's a designation that recognizes those companies' continued investment in small business partnerships. So these companies have a record of doing that. And there were two companies on that list that we cover pretty frequently in transportation and logistics, so it caught my eye. They were Amazon and UPS.
Well, Victoria, we often hear of big thinking, but as your report shows, sometimes there's an advantage into thinking small.
Exactly.
Thank you, Victoria.
You're welcome.
And Ben, as we see the rapid growth in AI deployments in our sector, you wrote this week that there seems to be a disconnect of sorts in the expectations between the CEO who directed the implementations and the people who actually have to pull them off.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Disconnect, gap, whatever you want to call it. Artificial intelligence, of course, is one of the hottest buzzwords that we've all heard in recent months. But some related terms are equally important, and they're much less discussed. I'm talking about less sexy stuff like integration and implementation. So that really equates to the hard work in the trenches that is required to build real world applications for artificial intelligence. And that's where many companies have been stumbling as they rush to adopt AI. So we recently saw a report about the gap between AI ambition and AI implementation. This came from the supply chain software company Kinaxis. And they found that at many organizations, business leaders tend to underestimate the new risks and complexities that AI might introduce. But on the other hand, while the leaders might underestimate those things, their staffers are very well aware of those complexities because those are the guys who are focused on the practical realities, such as the effort and the change management and the technical challenges of building an AI system. The study from Kinaxis cited specific numbers to back that up. There was a survey that found that 2/3 of C-suite executives expected their AI to deliver ROI returns within 12 months, but less than half of junior leaders shared that same view.
Yes, it does seem to be a problem, and I imagine it can be found in any industry. Did the study offer any guidance for a solution?
It's a good point. This does sound like a familiar song, right? We've heard this tune before. The study said that it looks like we may have a ways to go. Kinaxis found that nearly every company, it's like 97%, is experimenting with AI, but only a fifth can make real-time decisions or even have a defined AI strategy. There's another gap that occurs in the use cases for AI adoption, since a little more than half of organizations report that they've achieved full integration for predictive analytics. That's actually the leading use case right now. But fewer than 15% use AI to mitigate some of the things that really prompted all these companies to adopt AI. And these are their pain points, like supplier monitoring, anomaly detection, and geopolitical tracking. Oliver Sawbridge, who's a staffer at The Economist, which is the group that was commissioned by Kinaxis to do the research, said that the data reveal how far ambition has outpaced readiness. He said that companies are racing to deploy AI to manage geopolitical and economic shocks, but most of them lack the data, the systems, and the strategies to make it work in real time. So that's the study that we saw. Like we say, we tend to hear this sometimes when the leaders start to march very quickly in one direction, but they really have to have the whole company marching along in the same speed.
Yeah, I don't think those results are really surprising from a lot of what we've heard, people like us who cover the industry. I think it just shows how eager many CEOs are to get on the AI bandwagon because they're hearing so much about it and they feel that they should be using AI and don't want to be left behind. But they really often don't have a clue what to do once they actually jump on board that wagon.
I think you said it just right.
Thank you, Ben.
Glad to.
We encourage listeners to go to dcvelocity.com for more on these and other supply chain stories. Also, check out the podcast notes section for some direct links to read more about the topics that we discussed today. And we'd like to thank Alex Saric of Ivalua for being our guest. We welcome your comments on this topic and our other stories. You can email us at podcast@agilebme.com. We also encourage you to subscribe to Logistics Matters at your favorite podcast platform. Our new episodes are uploaded on Fridays. And a reminder that Logistics Matters is sponsored by Storage Solutions. When flexibility matters just as much as efficiency, it's time to rethink automation. With mobile ASRS from Storage Solutions, a young Heinrich company, you get a smarter way to automate pallet movement, powered by autonomous mobile robots and guided vehicles. No fixed infrastructure, no rigid layouts, just proven, adaptable systems designed to grow with your business. From solution design to implementation, they don't just deliver automation, they deliver an end-to-end solution. Let's build a better warehouse together. Find out more at storage-solutions.com. We'll be back again next week with another edition of Logistics Matters. Be sure to join us. Until then, have a great week.